so glad that you could join me for this session with Angela Lauria, who is from the Author Incubator. Today, she's going to be talking about why now could be the perfect time to write a book. And in this session, you're going to learn why right now is the right time to write a book for wellness pros, how a wellness pro can make money quickly from a book, and how the pandemic changed the book sales and the published industry and what's coming. So this is perfect and timely for where we're at right now. Hope you guys have a great time in this session.
Hey, thank you so much, Nicole. I'm really excited to be here. We're going to talk about how to be successful with a book in a post-COVID-19 world. I don't know if we're ever going to be post-COVID-19 completely. It seems
what does that even look like?
We're in the middle of it, but there are some really interesting things that have happened in the publishing industry. So I've heard people talk about COVID-19 as kind of the great accelerator. Well, in the publishing world, you probably know this, more and more sales were switching to Amazon and other online sources, and bookstores were going down. And everyone knows this, Borders closed, some Barnes and Nobles have closed. It was already not going great for the traditional publishing world. And COVID-19 really expedited that.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is 4 times a year, or 3 times a year actually, all the big book buying happens. There are these 3 big book shows where all the books are bought. And in the last book buying show, the publishers decided they would only buy from the top 25% of authors, and they cut their book sales by like 75% for in-store distribution.
Wow.
And at the same time, Barnes and Noble was recently purchased by a British company called Waterstones. And Waterstones had planned with the acquisition that they would change Barnes and Noble stores and in a market close multiple Barnes and Noble. So within like a 30-minute drive, there used to be, let's say, 2 or 3 or even 4 Barnes and Nobles. They're closing those down. They're keeping one of them, and they're turning it into more of a gathering space. So the way all of retail is changing, it's changing to being, they call it like experiential.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is you'll go to a bookstore to meet an author, or to be in a book club, or to have a play date with kids, or to go to an event, or to have a game night. But there won't be that many books in a bookstore anymore. You'll go to a bookstore and you might order books online, but you're not going to go there to look through books like we did, because it's just not as efficient as Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was already happening. And then with COVID-19, since they had to shut down all the bookstores anyway, Waterstones expedited all those remodels. So instead of taking 5 years, they're taking like 1.
Wow.
So there's going to be a lot less books sold in bookstores. And then the final third thing that happened in whatever March, April, May, is that in February, late February, a new website called bookshop.org was released. And this gives 15% of proceeds, or maybe it's 10% of proceeds, to local bookstores. So now when you go to local bookstores, they're going to encourage you to buy books to be delivered to your house from bookshop.org. So local bookstores will become these retail entertainment venues, and push you to bookshop.org. Barnes and Noble, when you go there, is going to push you to bookshop.org. And if you've ever been to one of the Amazon stores, there's a few of them, they push you to Amazon. So it's like, try out our Kindles, try out our toys, and then go buy stuff on Amazon.com.
Okay.
So it's the end of bookstores, or a new beginning, if you'd like to think of it that way. And that changes a lot. So I want to teach you in this presentation today how to still make money with a book, how to get paid, how to make the difference you were born to make, and how to be successful with a book now that bookstores have pretty much died or are very close to dying, and that timeline got moved way up.
I love this
So
topic because just hearing your exposition right there, it's like my mind just goes to like, well, what's the point then?
what's the point then,
What's the
right?
point?
Yeah,
Why would I even consider doing that? Why would I even consider writing a book?
Yep. I think, I'm 47, and I think a lot of us, part of why we want to write a book is just the nostalgia
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the strategy. Like, I remember what it was like when a book was coming out. I remember going to bookstores. And I remember like the pedestal I would put authors on.
Yeah.
And it's none of that's bad at all, but it's also good to get a sense of what's the marketplace today. Because the marketplace today already has been different, but now this year in 2020, it has drastically changed. So just having fantasies from when you were 20 or 30 isn't as productive as really having a sense of what the marketplace is doing, and then how do I make that marketplace work for me. So I'm going to jump you into this.
Mm-hmm.
So pre and post Amazon, and really you have to understand, COVID-19 was the accelerator of what Amazon created. When around 2008, when Amazon was really funded, they laid the groundwork for the death of publishing as we know it. COVID-19 accelerated that. It was probably on track to happen in 2030 instead of 2020,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 2023 by the time we're through this whole cycle. So I want to give you a sense of pre and post Amazon. So in my 20s, when I did my first book a week before my 21st birthday. So 6 years ago now. The way it worked is readers came from going to bookstores. So there were bookstore displays, publishers provided PR services. Publishers would set up book tours. The very first author I worked with, one of the jobs that I had, I think it's this book right here, was my very first book. And I did the book tour for this book. So we got a budget from the publishing company, and I called all the bookstores and set up the book signings. And then the publisher set up these books on tables at the front of the store. All of that is how we used to find readers. So from about 1937 to about 2007, there were relatively very few people who could write books. You had to be good, you had to be lucky, you had to know people. Publishers and bookstores were highly selective. There were lots of people who wanted to go to a bookstore and get the newest books, lots of demand, and relatively little supply. So that's always a good economic recipe. Well, Amazon came in and completely changed that. So what they did was they changed the game so that you would search for a book. So instead of like going into Walden's books and looking and seeing what's out,
Yeah.
instead of that, now you're searching. And when we search on much more narrow search terms. So now anyone can really make it as an author if you have an area of expertise, but we have to make sure that we have a searchable book, a book that people can find because it's a topic they're searching on. And then instead of making money from readers like we used to, because there was a lot of demand, a little supply, so we could sell 1 million books and make $1 million. Now there's a lot of supply, there's a lot less demand.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way we make money has completely changed. In fact, what works is high touch connection with your best readers, and then selling them something after you use the book to build the relationship. So instead of making money from readers, now we make money from clients. And that could be from running workshops or events, coaching clients, patients, consulting clients, getting paid as a speaker. but we want to use the book to get clients, to find prospects and get clients. And that's where the money comes from now. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
Okay. So in the old model, and you might know some of these people. So this is Lisa Nichols, Rachel Hollis, and Gabby Bernstein.
Yeah.
Three amazing authors.
Mm-hmm.
They come from that old model. Even though it's still happening now, it's happening for fewer people than it used to. And it's a model, but it's like a less reliable model. So a lot of times if you're in the summit, you're thinking about writing a book, you're picturing yourself having the kind of success that Gabby, Rachel, and Lisa have had.
Yeah, still on that book tour and flying all over the place to give talks and
you're imagining the publishers doing their marketing and they're
yes,
making
yeah.
money from
And a
book
big fat
sales.
book advance.
It doesn't quite work like that. It looks like that on the outside because that was the old model, but the industry has changed. So most of these people have invested at least $500,000 in marketing on their own.
Wow.
Now there's still an element of luck because they have to be picked by the publisher. They have agents, so they had to be picked by an agent, but they're spending money to build their brand.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason the publisher is taking the risk on them, because remember, now there's a lot less supply and a lot less demand and a lot more supply. So they have to be even more selective on who they pick. So who do they pick? People with a big following. How do you get a big following? A lot of people think it's that you're awesome. It is that you're awesome. It's that you're awesome. And you spend a bunch of money on marketing.
Yes. Yeah.
So these guys have a crazy schedule. They have very low margins. And they are making money off of book sales, but they're also selling speaking. They have membership programs. They have t-shirts. They're doing lots of different things because they're running a really big organization. So they have a big enough brand so that they can get the advance. So the publisher will do something, carry some sort of weight, which is now worth less and less because bookstores are closing.
Mm-hmm.
So this model exists. You can absolutely pursue it. It's option one. It's, it's funny. I just had a conversation with JJ Virgin on this, and it was how JJ started.
Mm-hmm.
But she said if she was doing it today, she would completely self-publish.
Wow.
So this is option one. You get the publisher to do it. You make an investment. You build your brand, and then you put all of the power in other people's hands, most of the profits in other people's hands, and you show up for a crazy travel schedule.
Sounds awesome.
Sounds great, right? Now that's what most people want because, like I said, they're imagining how they thought of authors in their youth.
Yes.
But this is option two. This is what's out there today. And I call this a specialized market instead of a generalized market. So if you're writing that book that's like, Girl, Wash Your Face, it's that general market book, that's the way you have to go. Mm-hmm. But if you can niche down on a more specialized topic, like let's say hypothyroidism, mm-hmm. or Crohn's disease, or gut health, if you can niche down on those topics and have a specialized market, you get to have much more control of your schedule and your time and much less hustle because you're not working for other people. Remember, we want to use a book to get leads and then use those leads to get opportunities like speaking, workshops, or consulting. Those opportunities are going to be easiest to get if you have a very niched or specialized offer. Mm-hmm. So you've got these two options, and this is where I recommend people start this decision, this general market, low ticket option. I'm going to sell 2,500 people $50 worth of stuff, a book and a t-shirt, or a book and a membership. And with 2,500 people, I can make 125 grand. Or I go specialized, I go niche, and with 50 clients instead of 2,500 clients, I can make the same amount of money.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
Total game changer. And now in the post-COVID-19 world, where we know travel is harder, building a general market still doesn't guarantee you're going to get that bookstore distribution, because they're only taking 25% of the books they've been taking in the past. So you've got less of a chance at this general approach. And it's harder because travel's harder, like everything's a little bit more challenging. Whereas if you go the specialized route, you need a lot less people and you have much more control of making it happen.
Yeah.
So these are just like for numbers nerds to give you a sense. With the general market, if you have, if you take the number of buyers of your book you have times 40, that's how many readers that you'll have. So 100,000. If you look at your clients times 40, that's how many readers you have. So you're going to impact a lot fewer people, but make the exact same amount of money. And that's like, for me, looking at that, the chance of having to go find 200,000 people versus finding 4,000 people.
Yeah.
It's a total game changer. And then I just want to give people a sense. I'm happy to kind of chat with you about what questions come up, but just what I mean about these generalized versus specialized topics. General are these really big topics of inspiration, confidence, happiness, self-love, taking over your health, surviving transition. When you get specialized, you're going to pick a specific disease. Maybe it's degeneration of the eyes, or it can be weight loss or quitting addictions, bulimia, overcoming Lyme disease symptoms. You want to be really specialized, and the more specialized you are, actually the easier it is to do it. So this is when we work with our clients, how we teach them how to do it. We have to take your expertise, the stuff that you've spent time doing that you're an expert on. We have to make sure there's a market for those high ticket, high paying clients that we can get in front of them. And then we also need to make sure it's aligned with your mission, what's important to you, what matters to you. Maybe it's important to you that people take care of, kind of become the CEO of their own health. Right. They take charge of their health. That might be your mission, take charge of your health, but you have experience as a pediatrician and you've been a pediatrician for 20 years. We know there's a market for at-home diagnosis and treatment of common childhood symptoms. So we might write the parent's guide to, should I go to the hospital or should I go to the emergency room? The mission is for the parents and the kids to take care of their health. So we can put that into the book. And the program, product, or consulting service we would sell from the book is, hey, I'm going to work with your family to customize a plan for the whole family's health. And that book, where the star is, your book idea, that's just what I call the we portal. It's the door your future clients will walk through.
I love that. I love the graphic too.
That's where we spend the most time with our clients. So, yeah, I'll stay here because I think this is a good slide for us to chat about for a minute, and maybe I'll even stop share. But I just think most people, where they fail with books, and this is so much more important now than ever, is by being specific enough and getting the right book idea. They think the hardest part is writing the book. The hardest part is picking a topic that's going to be at the intersection of those things.
Yeah, I love everything that you have to say. It's so relevant to right now in COVID times. I want to jump over all of the kind of like meat around how do you write a book and how do you actually sit down and how do you outline, like, 'cause people have those questions, but I know that that's like a really deep dive. I want to jump over that and just ask you a couple little questions about marketing a book and how that fits into a marketing plan for, say, like a functional medicine practitioner or a health coach. I see a lot of these like free book funnels that people are using. Is that still a strategy that works? Is that something that can you talk us through that a little bit and how marketing a book?
Yes. So that was what I was sharing with you at the very beginning. So the idea of selling a book is what most people think of.
Mm-hmm. Of
But
course, yeah. Can I
really,
actually make money selling a book? What am I going to make, $1 a book or 50 cents or
yeah,
just
you're not going to make money from selling a book. So what I recommend is you use your book by doing that free book funnel. There's a bunch of ways to do this. You could do it speaking at events. You could do it on podcasts. You can do it with advertising. But my goal is to give your book away.
Okay.
So you'll get readers, but you want their email address. What's much more valuable than the dollar you might get from sales
Mm-hmm.
is their email address. So you want to own that customer. You want to own their email address. Once you collect it, they go to this golden section, prospects, and then you can nurture them until they become a client or don't.
Mm-hmm.
So the value lies in the email address or the connection, as opposed to the value lying in the cash in the pre-Amazon world.
Right. I love that. And I think it's kind of counterintuitive. It's definitely counterintuitive to the way that I used to think about books too, and just thinking about self-publishing and being like, well, you can't make any money from it. And then the whole thing about like, I'd see free book funnels, I'd see people speaking and giving away books. And I'm like, why would you do that? But the way that you're setting it up, it makes so much sense, especially if you're thinking about it as a marketing cost. How
Yeah.
much does it cost you to acquire a client or a new patient, right? And so you kind of take out of the equation making money on this book at all and use it as one of your best marketing tools. I love
And
that. Super smart.
they are some of the cheapest customer acquisition costs. So it's a
Mhm.
really cheap way to
Yeah.
acquire customers.
And can you talk just very briefly about how you can use a book to become an expert in your industry? I think, is that another reason why people would self-publish?
I think that I think it's very powerful as a tool in that way. So the thing is this specialization key.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can pick a niche, even a niche inside a niche, like instead of just um, thyroid health, if you can pick Hashimoto's,
Mm-hmm.
and you see how that went for Isabella Wentz, like
Oh,
she
wow.
is the Hashimoto's expert.
Yeah.
Most people hadn't even heard of Hashimoto's, right? So the book, if Isabella tried to stand out, she was I think when she wrote her book, she was like a pharmacist.
Mm-hmm.
And if she tried to stand out as an endocrinology specialist, like some pharmacist is writing some book about everything endocrinologists need to know, it would have been fine, but nobody would have noticed the book.
Yeah.
But by niching down, all of a sudden, there's very few endocrinologists who don't know who Isabella Wentz is.
Right.
How many pharmacists can the average endocrinologist name?
Yeah. And that's how I found out about Hashimoto's, was through her book.
Yeah.
I've even heard of it before.
I think there are probably some endocrinologists who found out about it that way, which is even scarier. So that's the key to becoming an expert, being willing to niche down. We have Ava Hasselbeck is one of our authors, and she was, and I think maybe still is, an ophthalmologist for the German military.
Mm-hmm.
And she was also is also a functional medicine doctor, but with this specialized knowledge of eye health. And one of the places where she had the most success as a doctor is treating symptoms of people with rheumatoid arthritis, because there are a lot of eye related symptoms
Yeah.
of arthritis, and very few people to go to, very few functional medicine doctors who get autoimmune, and how autoimmune is a whole body system, who are also an ophthalmologist.
Yeah.
Right. And so she is now the world's foremost expert on eye disease related to autoimmune health. I'm writing a book on eye health in rheumatoid arthritis. Super specialized, but what an amazing way to stand out when you have that specialized area of knowledge. And she didn't even realize it when she came to us. She's like, I want to write a book about autoimmune disease. And I was like, we got to pick one that
exploration, you guys.
Yeah.
And that's something, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because it's something that's come up again and again as I've interviewed people for the summit. It's just the power in choosing a niche and getting very specific about the population that you serve, where your area of expertise is, your mission, like you had in the graphic. It's something that I feel like has to be underlined so many times, and we talked about it in funnels, we talked about it in emails, we talked about it in front end and back end processes when you're a doctor doing telemedicine, and now in books. It's just like, for me, one of the core threads that's kind of traveled through all the presentations so far is the power in the niche or the niche.
Yep. I don't know how to say it either, if it's anything.
I always go back and forth. Anyway, I think that's a great place to end on. I'd love if you talk us through a little bit about how people can work with you. Where are you at? What kind of, how do you work with potential authors, and a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll share this slide, and let's see, back to screen sharing. Here we are. So, so for most people, writing a book, they take somewhere between 1 and 30 years. And I love COVID.
30 years, I can see that.
It's true. It's totally true. I want people to really think about this. I don't care if you work with us or on your own, but this is the most important thing I'm teaching here.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you told yourself on January 1st, 2020, I'm going to write my book in 2020, and you decided you were going to write one chapter a month? So you write chapter 1 in January, you write chapter 2 in February, you start chapter 3 in March, and then COVID-19 hits.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, chapters 1 and 2 are completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
But now you go to write chapter 3 in March and you're not sure what to write. So now you've written 2 chapters that are garbage. You miss chapter 3 because of your deadline. And then in April, you're like, I'm going to get back on track. So you come up with a new book topic in April, and you write chapter 1 in April, and you write chapter 2 in May. And then in June, things start opening up, and you're like, why the hell was I writing a book about this? Everything I thought about the world in April and May feels different now. So you throw out those 2 chapters. Most people, even without COVID-19, did that dance for years or decades. And if you're watching this and it's you know what I'm talking about. You started a book and you didn't finish it. The reason why is you spent too long on the project. Mm-hmm. We give our authors 9 weeks to write, 9 weeks to edit. And we like 9-week cycles, 9-week sprints, because then you can take a little break. We think in 90-day quarters. And within 6 months, we want that book done. I recommend you budget no more than 3 months to write the book, ideally 3 days, which is most of our authors write the book in 3 days.
Wow, 3 days.
So much easier, because usually the world does not blow up in 3 days. So if you're trying to do it on your own, it's going to take you somewhere between 1 and 30 years. You have to become an expert in writing strategies, in publishing, in design, and marketing. And then you just got to cross your fingers and hope you got it right, which why would you?
Yeah.
So when people work with us, we guide them through a process. We work with 1,200 authors more. We add about 20 authors a month, and we've been doing this for 7 years now. And we tell you what to do every single step of the way. We're editing your book, we're designing your book, we're making sure it's published in a way that we know is going to be successful, and you don't have to guess if it'll work because you're working with experts. Mm-hmm. So that is, that's how you work with us. If you are interested in that, you can go to our website. I also have on the website, this is a hidden link. So if you go to the authorincubator.com/free books, You won't find this anywhere, but since you're a part of the summit, I really wanted you to have access to all of my books, which teaches you these techniques, how to write a book that people will beg you to publish, how to write a book that will lead to clients that beg to work with you. My book, The Difference, 10 Steps to Write a Book That Matters. All of my books are absolutely free, and you'll get to see how that funnel works. Once you get a free book, I'm going to follow up with you and say, hey, do you want to write a book? Do you want to talk to me? Should we get on a call? So you can go through that, and that is the exact process I will recommend if you work with us, so we can get you clients begging to work with you.
What an awesome process. And I'll put that link below the video so people can go and grab the books. And like Angela said, it's awesome to be able to just see behind the curtain of how that funnel works too, and envision how that could potentially work for your business too. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are already got the wheels spinning. You shifted the paradigm, put it in context of COVID-19 and where we're at right now, and then give people the steps for how they can work with you and how they can get that book baby launched and out into the world, not in 30 years.
Yes, not in 30 years. Who knows if we're still going to be here in 30 years? We got to figure out a couple things first.
All right, Angela, it was so nice having you here with us. You provided so much value and such an interesting topic. Definitely something that I've thought about a lot. I do have a book that's just been sitting there that never got finished. So I am one of those people where you write a couple chapters, not even pre-COVID, this was years ago, but where you're just like, yeah, do I like this anymore? Ugh, you know, and it just sits there in a file somewhere. So guilty as charged. Um, this has been awesome. And thank you so much for being here, sharing your expertise with all of us.
Thank you so much for having me. I always love talking about this. I'm so passionate about books because I have seen in my own life how they've changed my life. And I know if you're watching this, there's probably a book that changed your life. So go write a review on Amazon and say thank you to an author. Authors make the world a better place.
I love that. So beautiful. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you being here with us. I hope that in this session you learned something impactful and something powerful that's going to help transform your business. Before I leave, I just wanted to let you know that this session was sponsored by my business, Brand Better, branding, websites, funnels, and more for the wellness entrepreneur. If you want to learn more about my business, you can head over to brandbetter.online to find out more. And I also wanted to make sure to invite you to join me on Friday, the last day of the conference, July 3rd, for a half-day masterclass where I'm going to help you put this all together, the Wellness Business Accelerator, and make sure that we take all of the great concepts that you just learned in all of these amazing presentations with these great rock star speakers and make a plan for your business. So it's going to be live and interactive. Check out your email to make sure what time it is on Friday, but it is going to be a live half-day masterclass. So I hope that you join me. I'd love to see you there. We're going to get some really good work done and make sure that we take all of these concepts and they're not just these, you know, just sit and watch and take some notes and not actually employ any of these strategies. I want to make sure that these are real actionable things that you put in your business. So join me there on Friday. Go over and check out brandbetter.online to learn more about my business. And I'll see you on the next interview. Bye.